that last one was cut off. I found out that you can only pause this for so long. So I was trying to catch up my crocheting. And this again is a Stonepoint Asymmetrical Scallop top with these lace sleeves, lace up sleeves. And this is part 3. So we're going to talk about where we're at, just to review so you don't feel like think you're on the wrong one. Okay, here's our shoulder. Here was our initial chain. We've worked all of these rows, and we're almost to the scallop. Okay, and that's great, but to get the V stitches on that we're going to be putting a lace in, that we're going to be using to lace this up, we've got to end up out here. So there's decisions to be made. This one I don't have any real decisions because there happens to be 2 stitches left here. So I'm done with my row, I would slip stitch into this one, slip stitch into this one, and then I would end up out at the wrist. But if for some reason I didn't, then I would have to crochet back out to the wrist and you know, the same pattern, the same stitches, and hit another one right in here. But I don't want to go up into the scallops. So this one I don't end up having to do that. There's no way to make sure that happens because the amount of rows in the sleeves is different for everybody, and you just want to make sure if you've already done one sleeve, you just want to make sure it's consistent, and that's easy to do. I'm just matching them up right here, and I'm not done yet, but you don't count this part. Yeah, it matches up just fine. There shouldn't be a big difference, but double check, and you don't have to be exact about the rows. You may have one row on one more or less row. There may be a 1 row difference between the sleeves. That's okay, but you don't want a lot of differences. I don't know how that would happen, but you know, I'm capable of making any type of mistakes. So mine are pretty close. So I don't have to make any decisions. I'm slip stitching into this one, and I'm slip stitching up to the next one, and then I'm going to turn. So I'm going to end up out at the wrist exactly where I want. This is where I need to end up. And so I'm going to turn. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to take a look at this, and you actually want the 3rd stitch from the hook because these are just slip stitches. This is actually your 1st stitch. I figure I can't say that enough because, well, I found out that I can make that mistake really easily. And single crochet down to the bottom, to the wrist, and I will meet you there. Okay. I'm down at the bottom where the wrist would be at the sleeve. This looks great. Look how nice and neat and uniform this is. So messing with that and being particular, look, all worth it. This is an exciting part. I've been wanting to do some really versatile vertical built sleeves for a long time because I don't like twisting, and I like the way it lays better. So I mean, you don't have to add all these extra bells and whistles. This could just be plain. I will show you lots of options because these are just bonus secrets that if you watch the video you get to know that other people won't get, other people wouldn't get. But please feel free. This will work on any opening sleeve, or this will work on any armhole opening. And you obviously can make this any length, but 36 seems to be, or chaining 35 stitches seems to be like the magic number, because you can add a longer bell if you want it all the way down to the wrist. This just seems to be, this fixes a lot of problems. Okay, so when we get down to here, we're going to be building V stitches. So if you notice here, I'll show you on this one, these, there's a double crochet right here. Oops. And then there's 11 V stitches, and then it ends with a double crochet up here, and then at the scallop we jump over to the other side and continue the V stitches down here because that's where our lace is going to go. And then we attach them together. So that's a roadmap of where we're going with this. This is so fun to do this. So we chain 3 because that's going to be our, in turn, that's going to be our double crochet. That's going to be our double crochet. And then we want to, this is the same stitch as your chain stitch, and we want to just skip one and do a V stitch, which is double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. Now there's going to be 11. We've all got 35 stitches here, so this is, I can at least tell you how many we're going to be doing of this. And then we skip 2 stitches and put in a V stitch in both loops. Unless it says front loop, you know, it's not front loop. So both loops, put in a V stitch, and then we skip 2 and put in a V stitch. So it's double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. That's in the pattern. It's explained in the pattern, but picturing it is a little bit different. I'm going to pause this and meet you at the 11th V stitch. Okay, here I am. I'm working from the wrist towards the shoulder, and I have 1 double crochet or the chain 3. They're the same thing, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 V stitches. So I'm going to skip 2, do my 11th V stitch. I'm so excited about this color because, oops, sorry, me and my Aunt Peggy, we love matching stuff. She's 16 years older than me, and we love matching stuff, but she looks good. I don't look great in cream. She doesn't look great in bright white, but this soft ecru actually looks good on both of us. So we're going to have matching tops. It's very exciting. It's and she's like middle plus size, and I'm middle, you know, I'm a medium, sometimes a large. It's awesome. Okay, so we're going to skip 2, put in a V stitch. You guys all know this, but I just want you to see exactly how this is done because it's fun to do. And then now here we are, we're at that scallop, and we don't want to go over here into this. This is our last stitch. So in our last stitch, we want to put a double crochet. This is our last stitch. You skip 1, it will be the same. It will work out perfectly. Now, next, we're going to jump over to the other side, but we're going to go over to the other side. Okay, see, remember this is a work stitch, so we don't count this. Remember there's 3 stitches in, we put 3 single crochets here, so we want to count, we want to skip 2 stitches. See, none of these are stitches right here, so we want to skip the first 2 stitches of the scallop, sorry, 1, 2, and we want to slip stitch into that stitch and then slip stitch into the next stitch, and then we're just going to go down the other side. Okay, see, I'm jumping over to the other side and I'm making it exactly the same. Let's let this focus. V stitch, double crochet, 2 slip stitches, and then we're going to double crochet, but we've got to make sure we're in that first stitch. And because this is our beginning chain, it's a little bit trickier, but pretty much if you just skip 2 stitches, it's not this stitch here. You skip 2 stitches, this should be your first stitch right here. This you may have to work with a little bit, but I didn't, mine just turned out, but this pulls away a little bit because this is that beginning chain that we did. So I did double crochet, Then we want to skip 2 stitches. I'm going to try and give you a good close look at this. Then we want to skip 2 stitches and do a V-stitch. But look, it looks a little weird because it's a beginning chain. But here's 1 stitch, here's 1 stitch, and here's the other. So just look for these little holes right here. This is 1 stitch. There's another little hole. Here's 1 stitch. And here we skip 2 stitches, and here we want to put a V-stitch. Or wait, let me double check. Did we only skip 1 stitch? Yeah, sorry. We only skipped 1 stitch on this one. Next to the double crochets, we skip 1 stitch. I'm so sorry. Next to all all 4 double crochets, we skip 1 stitch. And then between the V's, we skip 2 stitches. So I'm sorry, we skip 1 stitch. And it's pretty easy. I mean, it's 11 V stitches. Put in a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now here, because we're going between V-stitches, we skip 2. So here's 1, here's 2. They look a little weird, they look a little loose. Don't worry, it turns out, I promise. I've done this a bunch of times, so I've got 2 V-stitches. So see, I mean, it looks like they're pulled out a lot. But look at this. Once you do it and lace it up, it just looks lacier. It just looks lighter. It just looks lacier. It's a warm sweater, but not like the dead of winter warm. And let me show you another trick. This is just a bonus for those of you that are watching the video. I'm so excited to have all these sleeve types done. Okay, I'm going to show you a join as you go if you didn't want to put lace in this. It's just about how you think it would be. So anytime you do a join as you go, the working side, which would be this side, is the part you do first before you slip stitch it to the other side. That is the way it works with every time you join as you go. So what you do is you make, for this one, you would make your first double crochet of your V-stitch. Then you would find the opposite V-stitch. And you guys have seen me do this before, but hey, why not just show you real quick how this looks. You're going to slip stitch into the chain 1 space of the V-stitch. You're going to do your chain 1, and then you're going to double crochet back and complete your V-stitch. Okay, and here's how it looks. See how pretty that is? And this is exactly how you make that pretty back part on the high-low top. So you can join 2 pieces of yarn this way all the time. I mean, this is a fun way of doing it. So you'd skip 2, do your first leg of your double of your V-stitch in there. Then you're going to slip stitch to the chain 1 space, into the chain 1 space, and then chain 1, and then finish the other leg. Oh boy, finish the other leg. I'll do one more since you guys didn't see it. Okay, look, I'm going to have to lace it up this way to keep it shut. You could still go ahead and put lace in it like it needs to be laced up. I could still lace it up just as I would normally right here. You know, put the lace. These are the 2 things I would lace together. You still put a lace in there and not have it open. So let's do one more. So you can lace it up. You could leave it like this. Okay, sorry. See, you could go ahead and put a lace in. You could leave it like this. You could even leave it open at the bottom. And that looks cool too. So there's a lot of options. Let's do one more. We skip 2, 1, 2, and we start the first part of our V-stitch. We slip stitch to the other side, the corresponding side, chain 1, and finish the other leg of our V-stitch. Okay, so there's, oopsie, I missed this one. Okay. But anyhow, I'm showing you that, and you would just move all the way down, and you could put a lace in it, like it needed, if it needed, you know, like it needed to be laced up or not. Let me show you this one that's already done. This is mine. Okay, this is where I used hem tape. This is where I used hem tape. So I don't have to take it out. It's been washed with the hem tape in. I just knot it here and lace it up down here. This is actually open. And then you can have the bow on the inside or outside. This is, so that's all you do for that. I did the other arm because I don't know which one everybody's going to like, so I'm going to feature them with both. The other arm I just made a chain. If you get ribbon, I suggest using a washable ribbon. But I just made a chain and laced it up, see? So you just have an extra crisscross in there. They all look good, every single one of them. I mean, if you were to finish just going around in single crochets and not have the fancy top, which I don't see any reason not to do the fancy top because it's fun and it's easy. So this is how this looks. So you got to see both of them. You got to see some kind of bonus ideas. Even probably most of you already thought of all these, but just in case. Just in case it's your first time, because I'm real excited about this sleeve. Okay, so now these stay like this, and then we just, remember we skip the one after every double crochet. We skip one, we only skip one, but between all the V stitches we skip two. So 1, 2, and just kind of pay attention. It's just kind of look for these 1, 2 holes, because these can look a little weird. And we're going to make 11, and it should turn out perfectly. If it doesn't turn out perfectly, it means you goofed up. But this is only one short row. I mean, technically it's one row all the way around here. That's all it is. So pulling this out is no big deal. And but you do want to get it right. Now see, look, if you move it around a little bit, you can see that there's a stitch here and a stitch here, because you know how chains are a little funky. These will pull out and look evenly done. So here's 1, here's 2, skip and do a double crochet. And I'm going to keep talking while we do these, and hopefully I don't mess up, because the bottom, there's another idea for the bottom that looks cute too. There's a lot of cute ways to do this and make them all just with all the things that are in fashion right now, but still flattering on all body types and all ages, because even the deep V-neck that this has, where it's laced up, it doesn't show anything. Right here, this is a V-neck that's laced up. It doesn't show anything. And even if you're not thrilled with showing your chest, this works as a perfect camouflage. My Aunt Peggy is 72, and she's not, she doesn't want her forearms or her chest really showing. This camouflages it perfectly. You still have the open laced up part, but you're not really showing, you know, you're not showing too much skin. So this even looks good on someone that age who has a lot of scars. She has scars on her chest. I don't really notice, but you know how we all have chests. I mean, I'm 55, or I'll be 55 in a week, a few days, and you know, this is just those really pretty laced things with that you still feel covered up enough in. So this is nice, and this is like a medium weight, not a heavy weight. The Stonepoint tunic does end up being a heavy weight depending on the yarn you use. I made it when it was really cold. So I'm getting towards the end. Very excited about this. I think this is my last one. Double check, because you never know. And make sure you have 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 V stitches, and so we skip one, and we end with a, we're going to skip one, and we end with a double crochet. Now this looks a little messy right here, and it's because the chain is collapsed, and remember I had to adjust right there. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the very end. It's not going to show either way I do it. I'm doing that just because it's smooth edge. I'm going to put this in the very end. Now remember, whenever you attach something, you do a join as you go kind of situation. You always do, this is your working side. You always do your working side first. And you always do finish your working side first, and then you slip stitch into the other side. So you got to find the top. Now be picky about this part. You need to find the top, the very top 2 loops of that chain 3 of the other side. So be picky. It's just how you would slip stitch into a beginning stitch. Be picky about that and slip stitch to attach them together down at the wrist area. Now, also, you guys have an option here. You can leave this open and continue on from here and have this big open sleeve part, which is super cute. So if you want to even add even another fashionable trend to it, do that. Now here at this part, you're going to chain 3. We're going to do double crochets all the way around. Now we're working in the round, but we need to chain 3 as our first double crochet. Counts as our first double crochet, as everyone knows. And so we're just chaining 3 right here. See, we don't cut anything. We're just chaining 3. Now, I want you to put 1 double crochet per row. But here, if you did that, it would be too gappy. We don't want a gap. So you're going to be doing 2 double crochets in this double crochet, and 2 double crochets in this one when you come back around. And then the rest, it's just going to be 1 per row. This is the only part that I thought might be a little confusing. Do pick up two strands in this. Everywhere you go, pick up 2 strands, and then I want 2 of them in this double crochet. Okay, I'll show you this. Okay, see what we have? These are the beginning of our double crochets in the round. So now when we get to here, just every row, so this is 2 rows between these 2 marks. This is 2 rows. So you're going to put a double crochet in every row. And so whatever you pick, just be consistent, keep it flat, keep it pretty. So I'm just going to pick right here. Make sure you pick up 2 strands, and then I'm going to go right here, and then, you know, however you decide to do this, just be consistent about it, and do double crochets all the way around, picking up 2 strands from each row you made. So each row there's going to be 2 double crochets in each of these sections. See from here if you can see them. Okay, I will meet you around to this side right here. Okay, so I'm working my way around here, and I know that this is your first sleeve, but when you do your second sleeve, just count what you have on your first sleeve. Just as a FYI, quick hint, count what you have on your first sleeve and make sure to put the same amount of stitches on your second sleeve. That'll make life pretty easy for you, and even if there's a 1 row variance, you will have fixed that problem. Okay, so I've got 2 more to do. Remember I said there'll be 1 dead center, and then you want 2 in the double crochet. So that's the only one that's a little bit different. And when you do this, kind of choose your stitches carefully. Because we're using all the same color, variances aren't going to show too much, but let's just have as few as we can. So slip stitch into the top of this just like you would in a normal round of double crochet. So this is pretty simple. The next part isn't complicated. It's just it might have to be fixed. You might have to move things around a little bit. So most of these are going to have, this one has 5 scallops. But it doesn't matter. I want the scallop to be like dead center. Just see how many scallops it turns out. I mean, I've noticed that there's 4 to 6 scallops. But there's no way to predict it, and it's okay. You can figure this out. This is an intermediate thing. Alright, so this is going to have 5 scallops, so this is going to have one right here. It doesn't matter, just chain 1, and then you're going to skip a stitch, and you're going to single crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, and single crochet. Okay, that's 2 chain 1 spaces that you've made. Okay, then you're going to skip a stitch right here, and this is a little bit different doing it this way, but it's just because I want it to flare out a little bit. This is the only oddball part. Here's where you're going to put 5 double crochets. Okay, you're only skipping 1 stitch, and you know, and the standard way would be to skip 2 stitches before and after the 5 double crochets. I'm only skipping 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, between every 5 double crochet, and then I'm going to skip 2 here, and it just makes it lay nice, and single crochet. Okay, so between every one of these 5 double crochet clusters, you're going to need 2 chain spaces. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And we're going to just keep going around, and I'm going to chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1 stitch, single crochet. So I have 2 chain 1 spaces after the 5 double crochet grouping. Now you should have already done the, I mean, you didn't have to if you're just enjoying the video, because you can put these sleeves on anything. But if you've already done the bottom, it's obviously just like the bottom, but there's only 5 instead of 7. So we've got 2 chain 1 spaces, and then we skip 1 stitch and put in our 5 double crochet grouping, just like it says. And there's no little tricks or hints except for maybe one, and I'll show you what that is. 3, 4, I'm just going to do this quick, but I will show you. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to skip 2 and single crochet, and I want to chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, chain 1, skip 1, single crochet. So there I have my grouping, and then I have my 2 chain 1 spaces. Okay, I just need 2 chain 1 spaces between every 5 double crochet grouping. So I'm doing this, I don't think this is going to turn out exactly, none of them, it's really hard to get them to because we're adding this on to something, but I can show you how to add these scallops onto everything, which lately I've been putting them on everything just because I really like them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I skip 2 and single crochet. Now here's the weird part. Okay, I'm going to end up, I've got 2 chain 1 spaces here, so I'm going to end up right here, right dead center in this stitch, putting a grouping. So that means I have to have 2 chain 1 spaces between here. So I don't have enough room, I don't think, to do that. So I chain 1, skip 1, single crochet, and I chain 1, skip 1, and I don't have enough room to skip 1 to get in the dead center there. So how you fix that is you just pull out a little bit of it, And since I need one more stitch, I'm just only going to skip one here instead of skipping two. If you need to vary more, then you could pull it out back to here. If you absolutely have to, if you're doing a small size or something like that, you I'll show you another one. You can chain one and not skip anything and still work in your chain one space. So you have options, a lot of ways to vary it. I can't predict how it's going to turn out because we're adding it on. When you make it in the first place, you can, but in this way you can't. So we still need 2 chain one spaces. And we need to get to the center of this. Now I may not have worked that out. Let's see. Okay, so I still need to skip one and get into this, I want one dead center. So let's see if I can get one dead center. I can't. So we're going to do exactly what I just said we were going to do. I only skipped one here. I'm not going to skip any here for this loop right here. I'm just going to go into the next loop. I still have a chain one space, so don't lose that. Chain one, skip one. And so you might have to do this just a little bit. It's worth it to work through this. I promise it's worth it. So you skip one, and then you're going to do a... Okay, now see, I'm finding it dead center. Now you may have one on each side or whatever. Mine's just ending up that way because my other one ended up that way, so I knew this one would. But you may only have 4 clusters, so you may not have to get one dead center. But you are going to have to meet up with this one and have two of these in between. So be patient with this. All right, so here's my dead center one. Here's the one I'm going for. So that's one I'm shooting for. Everybody else is going to be a little bit different. Mine has, I think, 4 clusters, not 5. So, like I said, it'll be 4 to 6, and this will be somewhat your choice. You can skip 2 before each 5 double between each grouping. You could skip 2. You could skip 2 here. Or you could just skip 1. I mean, you can make it flare out more if you want, or you can make it more straight if you want. That's something I can't, it's kind of cool that I don't have to decide that for you. Now this is just real easy. You don't have to be real picky about this. Now here's our first chain space. Here's our second chain space. We can just, I'm just going to single crochet. I'm going to single crochet in this first chain one space. This is really a little crunched, but it will look fine. And then I have to chain 1, and then find the next space right here, and then I'm going to single crochet into that space. Okay, so now between the clusters, we're going to now just have one chain one space. So now I want to make a double crochet in the very first, the top of the very first grouping. So I want to do it where it says double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in each. See how I'm going in each of them? In each of the double crochets of the 5 double crochet groupings. But don't chain 1 after the last double crochet. So you're going to end up with 4, and I'll show you what this looks like. We're going to end up with 4 chain 1 spaces. And I suggest counting them every time, simply because this is the very end and it's going to show. And I've made the mistake. So what we have here, now look, what we have here is we have a chain 1 space, and then we have 4 more. See, here's our grouping of 5, and then we have 4 more chain 1 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to have that. That has to be the same. Now it's time to anchor it, so we find our very next chain 1 space that we made from the previous round, and we single crochet into that. Then we make another chain 1 space, and then we single crochet into the next chain 1 space. So it's kind of like, well, not kind of, it is a little lattice in between, but it's a simplified lattice, of course. I might run out of yarn. That's not going to be good. Okay, so now it's time. We made our chain 1 space. See, we have the next layer. Remember I said it's in layers. We have the next layer with a chain 1 space in between. So we have this layer, chain 1 space in between, and now we immediately do our double crochet chain 1 spaces, double crochet chain 1, and then, as you can guess, we're going to be, the next round we'll be putting 3 single crochets in each of these spaces we just made from this last layer. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. See, there's 3. I mean, I've got to count because sometimes I think this is a stitch, or I don't know. The only way I can make sure I get it right is to make sure I double check my spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4. Now we single crochet in the very next chain 1 space right there. Now we make a chain 1 space. We make a chain 1 space. We single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Because remember, we had 2 chain 1 spaces in between. Now we only have 1 chain 1 space in between. Okay, and then we do our double crochet chain 1s into the next grouping. And this takes no time at all. Chain 1 into the next grouping. I mean, we've got the whole sleeve here, guys. I just wanted you to have it so that way you could refer back, and if you have a top you haven't put sleeves on yet, you've got another one you can choose from. There's like 3 or 4 sleeve ones on here. There's even a little cute cap sleeve, really cute, on the spring silhouette. It's the one that says lacing and sleeve for the silhouette. It's got a cute little cap sleeve that you can put on anything also. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4. So we know we need to single crochet into the first chain 1 space between them, between the groupings. Make a chain 1 space. Single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And we immediately start our double crochet chain 1s for our next grouping. I just think of it as like layers on a cake, is how I think of this. And I mean, you could add more layers, but these scallops are plenty big enough for me. And as you notice, you can have the scallops with a 3 grouping, a 5 grouping, a 7 grouping. You have to do 3 is like the smallest grouping you can do. But otherwise, there's not a lot of limits. Anything more than 7 would kind of bulge out. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 chain 1 spaces, and make sure they're there. Like this one, I'm not positive it's there. It is. Okay, so see, I goof up all the time. That's how come I try and troubleshoot how someone else might goof up. Probably no one else does as much as me. Okay, alright, and then you find your next chain 1 space, and you single crochet into that. Now, see, this is why, okay, I've got to untwist this. Now see, we're at the beginning now. Okay, so this is great. This turned out perfect. We're at the beginning. Now see where we joined up? This is great. We did this perfectly. And what we do is we go directly into the chain 1 space, and here we're going to put 3 single crochets. I mean, we don't do anything else. Just 3 single crochets in every chain 1 space of these groupings. And then I'll show you what to do next. I'll show you, don't worry, I'll show you what this looks like when I'm done. I know I'm crocheting fast, but I don't want these videos to be miserably long, but I also want you to be able to see everything you need to do. Oops, sorry, I bumped the camera. Motion sickness for everyone today. That's great. Alrighty, now, and then of course, always double check and make sure you have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we are done with that with this scallop. This scallop is finished. So if you're looking at this video before you start anything else, actually this will help you learn what to do on the bottom. You know, I definitely would skip ahead. It's like looking at the last page of a book. So then we need to find, there's one space between all of these groupings now. We need to find that chain 1 space. We just single crochet and then immediately go into the 3 single crochets in the chain 1 spaces from our groupings. See? Here. So we just did a single crochet in the middle and then went straight into our 3 single crochet groupings. And there's 3. And I would normally make these a little bit more even, but I know that I'm going to be washing this and it's going to shrink, and that kind of just blocks it for me, washing it. And then it shrinks. So normally I would block this because 100% cotton, I don't know. I just kind of like it blocked. But I found out by checking it, I check everything before I check how everything washes. Usually every time before I make a pattern, so I know what you guys are going to end up with. And then we single crochet in the next chain 1 space, then immediately start single crocheting in the double crochet chain 1 spaces. So that's good. I mean, I want everything to be sturdy, everything to be washable, everything to be very wearable in the fashions that are now, you know. I like the retro stuff too, but I like to add some fashionable additions to the retro stuff. So I like retro and today's fashions mixed. So it's kind of fun for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I try and look at today's fashions and then try and get inspiration from them, so that, you know, you aren't bound by age. This one looks good. Looks good on all ages and all body types. And trust me, those bottom scallops in that asymmetrical is flattering for everybody's figure. I mean, it was actually made. That's the reason I did that, and that's the reason that angle is what it is. I really put a lot of work into making sure that whether you are like apple-shaped, pear-shaped, you know, V-shaped, whatever, that it will look good on you. Okay, now see, we're ready to join up. We got through that fast. We're ready to join up, and here we are. And so we're at the very first stitch, which was right here. We just slip stitch into that one. And we are finished with all our scallops. Look how nice they are. And I know some of them aren't that even looking, but they will even up in the wash. Okay? And then we have this open. You can leave this open. It's pretty cool. Or lace it up part way. I mean, I might lace mine up part way. I didn't think of that before. And have this part open. I think I might do that. Anyhow, so just continue on and slip stitch around this whole thing. I like my sleeves to have more structure. I don't want them to stretch out, so anytime I can slip stitch around something, I do, unless I need it to have extra give to it, or if it's a different kind of yarn. But this yarn will kind of stretch throughout the day, and then if it stretches too much throughout the day, it will be kind of misshapen. So I don't want that to happen to you guys. I want to make sure it looks just right. And then do slip stitch in this, you know how we have a stitch between the scallops, do slip stitch in there. You don't skip over it, slip stitch in it. It separates them out nicely. I like how it looks. So just don't forget that part as you slip stitch around, and you are finished. Great job, guys. Please show me how these sleeves turn out. I'm real excited about them.